Even the country's oldest Latino civil rights group came out against it, yet AOC keeps defending it, saying gender is fluid, language is fluid. Yes, and Latino voters are fluid. Redress the past, or reach out to the gettable white voter who says, you know what, I'd like a shot at getting in the pot business. But to do that, our entire audience.
Remember when activists tried to push that awkward label Latinx as if it were the official title for anyone with roots in Latin America, only for the actual community to shrug it off? Yeah, most people hated it, but somehow AOC and her circle still hang on to it like a badge of honor. They even act like they never really leaned on the term, but Bill Maher isn't letting them rewrite history. On Real Time with Bill Maher, he tore into the silliness of it all. Hit that like button, drop a comment, and let's get into this breakdown.
This week, an 85% Latino congressional district on the border with Mexico, which had always voted heavily Democratic, flipped to the red team. And the campaign manager for the losing Democrat said, "We gave up a reliably Democratic congressional seat for no reason at all. We deserve to know why." Well, aside from your terrible attitude, I'm going to tell you why. Because these voters stopped seeing your candidate as their lawyer.
Maher launches into it by giving Democrats a cold slap of reality they weren't expecting. He lays out why Trump, the man they swore had zero chance, not even a slim one, still managed to snag seats they assumed were untouchable. Heading into the race, the left was patting themselves on the back, drinking cappuccinos, and already planning their big win parties. They thought it was a done deal. But voters had other plans. Constituents had decided they wanted Trump instead. Why? Because their so-called leaders couldn't be bothered to actually fight for the folks who put them there. Surprise, surprise. Turns out when you neglect your base while obsessing over symbolism and virtue points, loyalty dries up fast. Who could have guessed?
Their message to you was, I'm an American now. I'm here. Be my lawyer, not the lawyer for the migrants showing up in my backyard. Every month I see a new poll reporting how much Latinos despise the woke term Latinx. It's about as popular with them as a reboot of Speedy Gonzales.
And then comes the genius move. Democrats figured it was smart to focus more on defending migrants who couldn't even legally vote rather than the citizens who had the ballots in their hands. Brilliant strategy, right? Alienate your supporters and pander to people outside the voting booth. And as if that wasn't chaotic enough, they sprinkled in some woke branding by insisting on Latinx. Nothing screams, we totally get you like imposing a term the group despises. Surveys kept showing Hispanic voters rejecting it, yet party insiders treated it like holy scripture. The result? They offended the very audience they needed, gift-wrapping momentum for Trump without him lifting a finger.
Even the country's oldest Latino civil rights group came out against it, yet AOC keeps defending it, saying gender is fluid, language is fluid. Yes, and Latino voters are fluid.
AOC has built her brand by cheerleading nearly every trendy progressive slogan that comes along, convinced that repeating activist jargon somehow secures endless applause. So it's hardly surprising she's racing to defend the clumsy phrase Latinx, a label flat-out dismissed by the very group it's aimed at. The irony runs deep. She sells herself as this tough Bronx-bred voice of the people. But let's be real, that image is more marketing than authenticity. Her background isn't nearly as raw as she makes it sound, and her personal story doesn't line up with the hardships she constantly highlights. Yes, she's got Hispanic roots in her family tree, but real identity is more than ancestry. It's the culture you breathe, the dialect you speak, the traditions you live. On that front, she feels far more suburban and performative than authentically Latina. Which explains why her scripted outreach comes across as phony.
And more of them now than ever are identifying as Republican. So are Asian Americans, whose support for Democrats is down 16 points since the last election. A lot of that is because, in the name of achieving equity in schools, Democrats in deep blue cities have made it a mission to eliminate the advanced programs at which Asian kids excel. Asian parents said, "Okay, I wish all kids well, not a racist, but I need someone who acts like my lawyer."
Here's what the woke crusaders don't want to admit. By axing advanced classes, the same ones Asian students often excel in, they aren't creating fairness, they're watering down learning itself. Excellence is tossed aside to appease emotions, and the end product is mediocrity across the board. Think it through. If students no longer have space to aim higher, what spark remains to push them harder? Why burn the midnight oil? Why sacrifice free time if you'll still be rewarded the same way as the classmate who never even tried? The fallout is ugly. Kids from every background lose role models, benchmarks, and motivation to rise to higher expectations. Instead of pulling more students up toward greatness, the system is dragging everyone downward. That's not uplifting, it's sabotage disguised as equality. And in the end, the ones who pay the steepest price are American students everywhere.
If you're a parent and wanted schools to reopen a lot sooner than they did after COVID shutdowns, or think maybe your kid is getting a bad education partly because it's nearly impossible to fire a lousy teacher, yeah, you're going to say, "Congratulations, teachers, you got yourself a good lawyer. The Democratic Party's always got your back, 100%. But I've noticed my kid is kind of an idiot. So I may be looking for new representation."
It's impossible to ignore the wreckage these woke policies are unleashing on schools and, by extension, on the very generation we'll rely on tomorrow. Even if the Democratic establishment loses political ground, their education mess lingers like a shadow. Just scan modern classrooms. Students today aren't as sharp, disciplined, or competitive as those from decades past. Why? Because instead of raising expectations, Democrats deliberately lowered them, slapped the word equity on the decline, and branded it as progress. The outcome is a youth cohort less prepared, less motivated, and less capable of deep thought. Education was supposed to narrow gaps and lift everyone higher. Instead, under this agenda, it's becoming the great leveling down. That's not reform. That's self-sabotage sold as virtue, and the bill will come due for the entire country.
Hundreds of billions of dollars in student debt. Okay, but the poorer 2/3 of American kids who don't get a college degree are going to say, "Why should the people who didn't go to college and make less money subsidize the people who did go and make more? You want me to chip in so some liberal arts college can build a bigger rock wall? You're not my lawyer."